I'm convinced that Wall Street still doesn't understand Nvidia. Whether you're a longtime shareholder or you're thinking about buying Nvidia stock for the first time, you should know that this earnings call wasn't about revenues or profit margins. Nvidia just showed us why it's the king of the entire AI era. So in this video, I'll break down everything you need to know about Nvidia's latest earnings and what that means for Nvidia stock in 2025 and beyond. Your time is valuable, so let's get right into it. As always, I'm not here to waste your time. So here's everything I'll cover in this video. I'll highlight Nvidia's earnings results, focusing on data centers. I'll walk you through a few things that most investors still don't understand about Nvidia's data center GPUs. I'll share my thoughts on Nvidia stock and whether I'd still buy it now that it's the biggest company on earth by market cap, and of course, where Nvidia will end the year on my list of stocks to get rich without getting lucky in 2024, which has done really well all year long. There's a ton to talk about, so let's dive right into Nvidia's earnings. Nvidia reported record revenues of $35.1 billion for the quarter, which is up 17% quarter over quarter and a massive 94% year over year. Nvidia also posted earnings per share of 78 cents, which is up 111% from last year after accounting for their 10-for-1 stock split this past summer. Nvidia's data center segment is their biggest business unit by far, accounting for about 88% of their total revenues today. Another reason it's the main focus of my videos. Nvidia's data center revenues came in at $30.8 billion, which was up 17% quarter over quarter and a whopping 112% year over year. Just to be clear, that means that Nvidia's data center revenues more than doubled in 1 year after they became a trillion-dollar company, and they're on pace to make well over $100 billion in AI accelerator revenue this year alone. And if you still think the biggest companies can't get bigger, remember that Warren Buffett didn't invest in Apple until 2016, 10 years after the iPhone came out. Apple was the world's biggest company by market cap for 5 years when Warren Buffett bought it. And if you've been following this channel for a while, then you know that the key to finding great stocks is understanding a company's products, not just their profits. And the best investments are in companies with platforms that other businesses pay to build on top of. Today, Nvidia is the biggest company on earth, not Apple, exactly because every major tech company relies on their accelerated computing platforms. Nvidia's hardware and software ecosystems are the picks and shovels of this AI gold rush, and how big this gold rush will ultimately get depends on how fast Nvidia can deploy their AI chips and at what price. On this past earnings call, Nvidia's CFO Colette Kress said that Hopper is seeing continued demand, and Blackwell's demand greatly exceeds supply. So Nvidia is on track to exceed their previous Blackwell revenue estimates of several $billion for quarter 4. At this growth rate, we could see Nvidia's data center revenues reach $175 billion by the end of next year, and their total revenues cross the $200 billion mark. As a result, I really believe that Nvidia could reach a market cap of $4 trillion in 2025. Remember, Nvidia currently holds well over a 90% share of the data center GPU market, and that's before sales from their Blackwell GPUs fully ramp up, a ramp that we now know is growing faster than Nvidia previously expected. That's because the global artificial intelligence market is expected to almost 11x in size over the next 9 years, which is a compound annual growth rate of over 30% through 2033. And that strong demand is why Nvidia has so much pricing power, even as a hardware company. They reported gross margins of 74.6%, which makes Nvidia as profitable as most software companies. That's why I think Nvidia is still a great investment, even though it's the biggest company by market cap. But there's an even better investment that you need to know about, and it comes with huge returns right away, and that's 8 Sleep, the sponsor of this video. I'm a really light sleeper. I always struggle to fall asleep and stay asleep. I either get too cold and need an extra blanket, or I overheat and get up to crank the AC. Either way, I'm way less productive the next day, only to sleep even worse the next night. But I've been using the 8 Sleep pod for a few weeks now, and my sleep quality has skyrocketed. The pod is a mattress cover packed with advanced technology to track your sleep patterns, as well as cool, heat, and even elevate. You just slip it onto your bed, and it adjusts the temperature, optimizes each phase of your sleep, and shows you how your sleep score is improving over time. It's kind of like having a sleep coach, a personal thermostat, and a fitness tracker all in one. It also has precision temperature and time controls for each side of the bed, so my fiance and I can fine-tune our settings separately. She absolutely loves our 8 Sleep Pod, and I can't recommend it enough because I'm finally getting a good night's sleep. So if you're tired of always being tired, you can get up to $600 off your Pod 4 Ultra with my code TSY by using the link in the description. That's their best offer of the year and easily one of the best investments I've ever made. Alright, so Nvidia's earnings per share and data center revenues grew by triple digits year over year. On top of that, Blackwell is already on track to exceed previous revenue estimates. And on top of that, Jensen Huang already announced Nvidia's next 3 sets of data center chips after Blackwell earlier this year. The Blackwell Ultras, which are set to ship in 2025, the new Rubin GPUs shipping in 2026, and the Rubin Ultras scheduled for 2027. Let me point out a few things that most investors still don't understand about Nvidia's data center systems. When most people think about GPUs, they think about an expensive chip that goes into one computer, like a gaming PC or a professional workstation. But when Nvidia announces a new architecture like Hopper, Blackwell, or Rubin, it actually includes 6 or 7 chips, depending on how you count them. There's the GPU itself, a CPU, a data processing unit, or DPU, multiple configurations of NVLink chip-to-chip switches, and InfiniBand or Spectrum-X networking solutions at the rack level and beyond. In fact, $3.7 billion of Nvidia's revenue came from networking products in Q2, which is still more than all of AMD's data center revenues today. Alright, so if each architecture really includes 6 or 7 chips, we should walk through how they all fit together. I've gained almost 100,000 subscribers since the last time I walked through this, so it'll be great to get everybody on the same page. First, this Blackwell GPU actually combines 2 dies into a single chip and connects them with a 10 terabyte per second link so they act like one GPU. This is a really clever chip design, but 2 dies, an ultra high-speed link, and a bigger total area for advanced packaging means that Blackwell costs much more to make than Hopper. Higher unit costs mean lower margins, and higher part counts means lower times between failures on average, simply because there are more parts that can break. Personally, I think the trade-off is worth it, at least in the short term, because Blackwell's insane performance is what gives Nvidia a lot of its pricing power compared to other GPU makers, and that flexibility is what lets them get even more businesses onto the CUDA platform at a time where every data center and cloud service provider is scrambling to buy as many GPUs as they can. During a gold rush, getting everyone on your picks and shovels is what matters most. The next level up is the GB200 Superchip, which pairs 2 Blackwell B200 GPUs with 1 Grace server CPU. They're connected via NVLink, which is a chip-to-chip connection with 900 gigabytes per second of bandwidth. That's fast enough to move 150 feature-length 4K movies between chips every single second. 2 of those Grace Blackwell chips go into a Blackwell compute node, which is 1 tray in an AI data center rack, and the 2 super chips in each tray are also connected via NVLink. Nvidia also makes these Bluefield DPUs, or data processing units. DPUs have a ton of cores to handle highly parallel workloads, like coordinating, securing, analyzing, and transferring data between many different chips inside a data center. That way, the CPUs and GPUs don't have to do that work. Alright, so 18 of these compute trays go into one GB200 NVL72 system. It's called that because the GB200 Superchip has 2 Blackwell GPUs on it connected by NVLink. There are 2 super chips per compute tray, also connected by NVLink, and there are 18 trays per system, so 2 times 2 times 18 equals 72 Blackwell GPUs connected by NVLink. That's why the whole system is called the GB200 NVL72, but that's just the compute side of the system. So stick with me as I go through the networking side next. It's important for investors to understand that NVLink is not just a chip-to-chip connection.
The rate at which we're advancing computing is insane, and it's still not fast enough, so we built another chip. We call it the NVLink switch. It's 50 billion transistors. It's almost the size of Hopper all by itself. This switch chip has 4 NVLinks in it, each 1.8 terabytes per second. What is this chip for? If we were to build such a chip, we can have every single GPU talk to every other GPU at full speed at the same time. That's insane.
Sandwiched between the compute nodes we just talked about are 9 NVLink switch trays with 2 NVLink chips per tray, and each NVLink chip connects 4 Blackwell GPUs. So 4 ports per NVLink chip times 2 chips per tray times 9 trays is 72 ports supporting all-to-all GPU communications at a mind-boggling bandwidth of 130 terabytes per second.
That's the DGX NVLink spine. 130 terabytes per second goes to the back of that chassis. That is more than the aggregate bandwidth of the internet. We could basically send everything to everybody within a second.
More bandwidth than the entire internet. The first time I heard that, my brain melted a little. Alright, the 18 compute trays and the 9 NVLink switch trays come together to form the GB200 NVL72 system, which is one rack in an AI data center. This one rack has 1.4 exaflops of AI training performance. And just to be clear, there are only a handful of exaflop supercomputers on Earth today, and Nvidia built one in a single 120 kilowatt rack that they sell right off the shelf. And at the top of each of these single rack supercomputers exists a single InfiniBand or Ethernet X switch tray to connect them to other racks, all of which are liquid cooled. Room temperature water flows in, hot tub temperature water flows out, and the resulting system can be connected to others to make one 32,000 GPU, 645 exaflop AI factory for the new industrial revolution. This is more than one giant GPU. It's one accelerated computing platform for the AI era. The only other thing I want to point out is that these systems are architecturally compatible, which means a Hopper tray can be replaced with a Blackwell or a Rubin tray down the road. That means when a data center buys Nvidia systems today, they're also building out the infrastructure to support the new chips down the road. That's how Nvidia gets in the door. This also means that older chips benefit whenever Nvidia writes a new acceleration library or software application. So the whole Nvidia hardware ecosystem is getting better over time, which leads to more adoption, which leads to more developers, and the cycle keeps repeating full circle. Let me give you a real example. Last fall, Nvidia came out with an open source software package called TensorRT LLM, which literally doubled the inference performance for large language models running on Nvidia's GPUs. That means the hundreds of thousands of H100s bought by companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta, OpenAI, and X got twice as good at running large language models for their users overnight. But TensorRT LLM also works on Nvidia's Lovelace GPUs, their Ampere A100s, which predate the H100s, and it will work on Blackwell chips too. So this software compatibility between GPU generations helps make Nvidia's ecosystem very sticky. And that's just the bottom layer of Nvidia's stack. Nvidia's CUDA ecosystem and acceleration libraries sit on top of that. Part of the acceleration process is rewriting different software functions and operations that run sequentially on a CPU so that they can work in parallel on many GPUs. So at a high level, this part of the stack enables accelerated computing across many different markets, from chip design and gene sequencing to physics simulations, graphics processing, and of course, generative AI. And the top layer of this stack is Nvidia's AI software suites and applications, like ACE, their avatar cloud engine, which lets game developers use generative AI models to power in-game characters. These applications stitch together many different microservices called NIMs to do things like understand and produce speech, match a character's lips and facial expressions to what they're saying, follow a specific set of rules and guardrails, and so on. And that's just for digital avatars. Nvidia also has software for training and controlling robots called Isaac, or self-driving cars via Nvidia Drive, or modeling and simulating weather patterns in Earth 2. And Nvidia's Omniverse is the real-time, physics-based 3D environment where many of these applications run, including where different AI systems go to get trained up before getting deployed in different real-world applications, like the robots and self-driving cars I just mentioned. I've only scratched the surface of Nvidia's software stack, since Nvidia's software revenues are a tiny fraction of their hardware revenues today. And that's a whole different growth area for Nvidia in the future that really deserves its own videos. I spent most of this video covering Nvidia's data center ecosystem because that's the real science behind this stock, and it has a lot of moving parts that aren't easy to understand until you see how they all fit together. The different chips, the server racks, the infrastructure that connects them, and the software that sits on top of that. But now that you understand it, at least at a high level, we can talk about the future of Nvidia stock. And if you feel I've earned it, consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. That really helps me out and it lets me know to put out more content like this. Thanks, and with that out of the way, here's what I think is in store for Nvidia stock in 2025 and beyond. Like I said earlier, I think Nvidia will be the world's first $4 trillion company. Their revenue and earnings are still growing by triple digits every year, and the demand for their AI systems is growing faster than even they expected. On top of that, there's still no competition in sight, at least not with enough scale to really make a dent in Nvidia's market share. Based on everything we just walked through, I strongly suspect that Nvidia will always be the king of GPUs, the same way that Google will always be the king of search. In Google's case, the world is just now starting to move away from search altogether and towards answer engines like ChatGPT or Perplexity, since these answer engines don't make you sift through tons of ads and links to find what you're looking for. But think about how long Google's monopoly on search has lasted. Likewise, I think the company that will disrupt Nvidia won't build a better GPU at all. They'll build a fundamentally different kind of chip that will change the way that companies invest in computing in the first place, just like Nvidia is doing right now by disrupting the CPU market with their GPUs. On top of that, Nvidia stock is still relatively cheap, with a forward price to earnings ratio lower than their two main competitors, Broadcom and AMD. As fast as their stock price has gone up, their earnings have gone up much faster. So, long story short, I've been dollar cost averaging into Nvidia for years now, and that's not about to change. But what did change is where Nvidia goes on my list of stocks to get rich without getting lucky. Believe it or not, Nvidia started the year in the number 5 spot on this list, below the NASDAQ 100, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon, since I thought these companies would be the first to integrate AI into their massive software suites and online applications, which means they were going to profit the most from this AI boom, especially Microsoft, which owns 49% of OpenAI, and Google, which has DeepMind and their Gemini models. They're also the only companies on Earth with the resources to make their own AI chips at scale, potentially eating into Nvidia's market share. But with each earnings call and keynote presentation, I saw that more and more value was accruing to Nvidia instead of to Nvidia's clients. And even though Microsoft, Google, and Amazon do all make their own AI chips, none of them even came close to disrupting Nvidia. If anything, they're buying even more Nvidia chips today. That's why I'm moving Nvidia up one final spot on my list, second to only the index that it's already at the top of anyway. Like I said at the start of the video, I think Nvidia will be the king of the entire AI era, the same way that Apple was the king of the mobile era and Microsoft was the king of the PC era. And this is why it's so important to understand the science behind the stocks. And if you want to see what else I've been investing in, check out this video next. Either way, thanks for watching, and until next time, this is ticker symbol U. My name is Alex, reminding you that the best investment you can make is in you.